Hello, and welcome to another very special episode of AmRev360, Conversations about the American Revolution from All Angles. I'm Scott Stephenson. I'm President and CEO of the Museum of the American Revolution right here in Old City, Philadelphia at 3rd and Chestnut Streets, 2 blocks that direction. You're looking at Independence Hall, the Liberty Bell. We're right in the center of the birthplace of American democracy. And I'm really excited for those of you who've been following this program really for the last year, which we started during the year of COVID. And up at this point, all of our conversations have been remote with our guests. So this episode is special because I'm joined here today in the museum's Patriots Gallery with my 2 guests, Martha Meehan-Cohen from the Supreme Court Historical Society in Washington, D.C., and David Bruce Smith from the Grateful American Foundation. And we're going to be talking with Martha and David a little bit about the great work that they're doing to try to spread greater excitement, engagement, and interest in American history and constitutional history. But I want to take just a moment before we get into the details just to talk a little bit about what you see on the walls around us, because we are filming in the midst of the museum's special summer exhibition, Flags and Founding Documents, 1776 to today. This is a special exhibition that opened for Flag Day. It's running through September 6th, through the Labor Day holiday. So if you're watching this program, you got a couple more weeks to try to catch this great show. It brings together a collection of 43 historic American flags, starting with a very early surviving 13-star flag, and really looking at the expansion of the American Republic through the addition of states, the addition of stars, very artistically rendered through these beautiful examples of American folk art, and together with more than 40 historic American documents and printed works from the collection of Dorothy Tapper Goldman in New York. These include a first printing of the proposed federal Constitution of 1787, a first printing of the Bill of Rights, state constitutions reaching from the 18th century all the way through to the end of the 19th century, some really rare and important historical American documents. It's been incredibly well received by our visitors, and you will definitely want to see it if you can make it to Philadelphia sometime in the next couple of weeks. So just to start, welcome, David.
Thank you.
Welcome, Martha.
Thank you so much.
I thought maybe I'd start with you, Martha, just because you're wearing red and, it seems very patriotic, as does blue. Martha, I just start off, you're the Director of Advancement at the Supreme Court
Historical Society. That's correct.
I'd love to know, where do you come from? Where'd you grow up? And
oh my gosh.
We'll start the journey,
okay,
first.
That's
and
a
then
long
eventually
time
we'll
ago.
get to the Supreme Court.
Okay. So I actually grew up between Washington, D.C., where I work now, and Philadelphia, where we sit in this fabulous exhibit. I grew up in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. And so the Supreme Court Historical Society. What is the Supreme Court Historical Society? What do you all do down there? What's your mission?
So our mission, exactly.
Yeah,
Our mission is twofold. It's really to preserve the history of the court. And that's a big job. But also to educate the public about the court itself, about the third branch, about its importance really in maintaining the balance, as we call it, in a constitutional democracy.
No less important for Americans to understand those 3 branches of government than it's ever been, I dare say.
Could not agree with you more. Could not agree with you more. And this exhibit to me, it's a must see. It's an example of where we came from, how we got here, that it's not a straight line. The Constitution begins with a more perfect union, not the perfect union, or here it is, one and done. But we've evolved as a people, and that's part of what we document. That's part of what we try to preserve, is that history of how the court has been involved in that movement from day one to today.
Now you're really I think, blessed in that you kind of have the red telephone to the actual justices themselves, right?
I would say they have a red phone to me. I don't have a red phone to them.
Okay. But
But
you're
I
able
do
to
know
incorporate,
them, and
incorporate them into programs that you
absolutely,
do. And
absolutely.
yeah.
We are very, very fortunate,
Yeah.
very much supported. The Chief Justice is actually the chairman of our board of directors.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
the justices are all very involved and very supportive with all of our work.
Now, can you say a little bit about sort of the audiences that you serve? Because I know I understand everything from sort of interested adults
Mhm.
to educators to students. You know, what are some
That's
of the?
exactly
Yeah.
right. So technically, we're a membership organization.
Mhm.
So we have a group of over 3,000 members. But in addition to that, the audiences that we serve are legal scholars. For example, our building, the Supreme Court Historical Society, which is about a half a block from the court.
Mhm.
We have the largest library of justices' writings and biographies in the country.
Mhm.
So scholars will often spend time in our building doing research and learning what they need and want to learn for their work about specific justices or specific time periods of the court. So we serve scholars, we serve teachers, we serve students. We do a tremendous amount of educational programming. And have gotten a lot better at it with Zoom, I will tell you, like everyone
We all
else.
have. Hence
but-
what we're doing right now.
Exactly, but we like to think of our
Yeah.
audience as we the people,
Mhm.
you
And
know?
we'll have people watching from all around the country. And if you could say a little bit about your summer teacher
Summer
program, because
institute?
there'd be an opportunity, no matter where you are, if you know an educator, if you are an educator, you're going to want to listen to this.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
So for 27 years now, we host every summer the Supreme Court Summer Institute for secondary school teachers.
Mhm.
And we bring 2 teachers from each state, so every state is represented, to Washington, D.C. for a very immersive curriculum development experience about how do we teach about the court? How do we teach about the separation of powers? How do we teach about landmark cases and their importance in sort of maintaining the balance of power in the country? And the nice thing about the Institute is, first of all, it's free for the teachers. There is a competitive process of application, which begins in March. The Institute itself takes place in June after the school year. But the people who participate in that process, so Supreme Court justices, scholars from the Georgetown University Law Center, these teachers are spending 2 weeks with these people, really learning about how to teach about what these people do. It's a fantastic opportunity. And as I said, for 27 years now, it's been a staple for us.
And if someone wanted to find out more, your website is
www.supremecourthistory.org.
That's pretty intuitive.
Exactly.
Now I know you're associated with this guy over here, David Bruce Smith, who I'd love to bring into the conversation. David, I became aware of your connection through this John Marshall project and a book that you all kind of worked on together. But
well, we did
yeah.
a podcast about John Marshall, George Washington, and John Adams.
Yeah.
But my mother and I have done 2 children's books, one on John Marshall.
Yeah.
And then the latest one is Abigail and John Adams.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit. Well, first of all, to be fair, David, you grew up in Maryland also, is that correct?
That's correct.
Fantastic. And how did American history figure in your youth and education as a citizen and as a good American?
I was very lucky in that I think, wired for American history. I loved dates. And my grandfather told me when I was 6 years old that it was very important that I read books about significant people like Golda Meir or Mark Twain or George Washington. And I asked him why. And he said, because if you do that, you will have a reservoir of wisdom from which to draw when you get older, which happened. Now, the Grateful American Foundation exists because of this museum.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, tell me more.
I was in the car listening to NPR in 2011,
Mhm.
and I heard this horrible statistic.
Mm.
The museum had done a survey,
Yep.
and the results were that 89% of those people believed that the Revolutionary War happened after the Civil War. So I immediately, without knowing what, I have to do something to contribute to this mess.
Mhm.
So that's how it started.
Wow. Can you talk a little bit about some of the initiatives sort of under the Grateful American Foundation? Because I know you are both, I'd love to talk a little bit about the publishing and the work you're doing with your mother in terms of illustrating, but you also do a lot to try to encourage young people to read and get excited about history, to begin writing about it.
Right.
et cetera.
That's the Grateful American Book Prize. And
Mhm.
actually, Bruce gave me the idea for that.
Bruce Cole then, yeah.
Because when I started the Grateful American Foundation, we were doing videos
Mhm.
and they weren't getting anywhere, I concluded,
Mm-hmm.
because unless you have a Ken Burns machine, you can't get it out.
Mhm.
So he suggested that I create a book prize to propel the foundation.
Mhm.
It's very complicated to do a book prize, let me tell you. I mean, there's a lot of architecture. I mean, there are actually 85 prizes in children's literature, of which
Huh.
mine
Mhm.
is for adolescents, 7th to 9th grade.
Mhm.
Mine is the only one in that slot.
Really?
Now,
Wow.
the reason why I picked 7th to 9th grade was that's a very difficult time for people,
Mhm.
and socially and all that. And so the books that we get, like this year, the cycle was uh, is was August 1st of last year to July 31st of this year.
Mhm.
They come. These are not books like people think that kids have. These are books that are Simon and Schuster,
Mhm.
Knopf. I mean, these are
Mhm.
coming from the publisher to us, and I have 7 judges, including myself, and I sort of curate them to see if they qualify. And then this year, it looks like everyone's going to read probably 25 books, which is on the low end.
Mm.
We've had up to 40.
Wow.
And then,
Thank you for not asking me to be a judge.
no, it's fun.
Yeah, no, it's
No, it's
great.
fun.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the things that people are writing about. They didn't write about 30 years ago.
Mm.
It's a rough world for a kid in many ways.
Mhm. Yeah, how have you seen, even since you started, have you seen any sort of trends or of what sort of
Well,
what the writers are focusing
there
on,
are-
or what students, kids are
there,
responding to?
there's always civil rights.
Mhm.
There's always black white tension.
Mhm.
This year, social justice has been huge, which I expected.
Mhm.
And then there are these, the outliers.
Hmm.
But this year is the first time there's really been a lot of anger.
Mm.
And it's hard,
Mhm.
to keep reading it, but it is what it is.
Mhm.
But I think it's a good way for people to work out what's bothering them.
Mm.
And then in the fall, there's I pick a venue, and the winner is presented with the prize, which is a medal that was designed by my mother,
Mhm.
and $13,000. It's $13,000 in honor of the 13 original colonies.
Very nice. And have you managed to keep in touch with any of your recipients, or get a sense of, do you have any stories about what
mean
impact that's had on?
The winners,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah,
I've been in touch with all of them.
fantastic.
It's like a
Yeah.
club, actually,
Mhm.
and they're all great.
They're all amazing.
Mhm.
They are. They're all amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
You know,
yeah.
following up on your point, David, about the anger that you see
Mhm.
coming through in some of the recent works, you know, to me, that's part of why this
Mm.
beautiful exhibit is important. You know, we talk about the American path not being a straight line, and we
Right.
can just turn around and look. There have been plenty of times
Mm.
in our history where anger has boiled up and boiled over.
Mm.
And I think one of the things that we have to learn about and remember is that generally speaking, that has taken us to a better place.
Mhm. Well, David, Martha, I'm so excited that we've had this chance to have a short chat here. Very excited for you for your first visit to the museum
Thank you
to
so much
show
for
you around
having
a little
me.
bit today. Yeah.
Thank you, Scott.